What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Turn of the Jets podcast. I'm your host, Will Parkinson, at Will Pod 11 on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. All 32 Pod TOJ talks on Badlands. Schedule is officially out. Hop on here, 10 quick minutes, just initial thoughts on the schedule and kind of the hoopla that surrounds that and just, what it might mean for the Jets and, my initial thoughts on just the way things, laid themselves out. Outlook, again, obviously, everyone's going to look at the beginning of the season and immediately doom post and say how bad they're going to be and the whole thing, and I get it. They play 17 games. We knew these are the 17 people they were playing for the last 5.5 months, and like 12 of those opponents, 14 of the opponents, they've been knowing they're going to be playing for the last 4 years because this is the way the NFL schedule works. So there should be no surprises there in terms of who they're playing or, frankly, anything of that nature. We knew the London game got announced a few days ago on Good Morning Football. The Jets will be, week 6 in London as a home team, which got announced, again, months and months ago. We knew that was going to be the case. They'd be playing Denver. Okay, let's just walk through the schedule here and just, some initial thoughts. Jets open with the Steelers. Again, Rodgers is not on the Steelers yet. So, in terms of that nature, like, I'm sure that talk and that hoopla will get, if he joins the Steelers, if at any point, that'll become a, must-see TV game. And while that's not a primetime game, I think it is one that, the NFL is kind of banking on Rodgers making his return and becoming a Pittsburgh Steeler. I frankly think this is not the worst-case scenario for the Jets to open up with. You're either opening up with Aaron Rodgers, having no chemistry and never having played with the Steelers before, and a team that, frankly, you were stomping in the first half a year ago with a team with no coaching and Devontae's first game, and Rodgers was banged up and the whole thing. Like, I don't view that as some like horrific week 1 matchup for the Jets. And oh my God, let's all freak out. There's nothing the Steelers, frankly, do that the Jets also don't do well. They're kind of a mirror image of each other in a lot of ways. Justin Fields' revenge game, again, the Aaron Rodgers factor, we'll see there. But Jets, I think 13 1 o'clock starts on the schedule. They are back firmly in the 1 o'clock, C list, D list window. We joked with Jason McCourty when he was on the pod. I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 months ago. We're like, hey, you're going to get a lot of Jets this year. And, him and Andrew Catalan and Tiki and that whole gang will probably be on a lot of Jets calls early in the year. Jets over with the Steelers. Then back-to-back weeks, they get the Bills at home as well, week 2. Is it the easiest team, start? Pittsburgh, Buffalo, 2 playoff teams? No. But at the same time, I guess you'd rather catch Buffalo early in the year before they start to get really cooking. It's a home game. The Jets played the Bills really well at home, generally speaking. Again, like, can you split those two, go 1-1 to start the year? Back-to-back weeks in Florida, at Tampa, at Miami. Miami will be their first primetime game of the season, Monday Night Football. That weird 7:15 start. We see from time to time the NFL stagger some of those Monday night doubleheaders early in the year. Again, can you split those two? We go 2-2. Optimistically, I don't think that Tampa's a decent matchup for them. They just are. Todd Bowles against a running quarterback. As Jets fans know, we've seen that too many times. You can be successful there. We saw Denver go in there and smoke Tampa a year ago. Baker's prone to turnovers and all these different things. Like, I don't know. No Chris Godwin early in the year, likely because of the injury. We'll see. And hey, do you get Tampa on an off week? Who knows there? Then again, I don't expect Miami to be very good. So again, can you go 2-2 through the first 4? Keep yourself afloat. I look at a lot of this season, and frankly, a lot of the schedule is can you go 1-1 every 2 weeks? Maybe you get hot and you go 2-0. Other weeks you go 1-2. Like, even out, you give yourself an 8-9 win chances, which is exactly where I think the Jets will end up finishing. Dallas at home, a little surprised it's not a 425 game just because of the market size of Dallas Jets. Let's see what Dallas is going to be. Could I see them winning the division? I could. Could I see them finishing 4th? I also could. So we'll see there. And then, as I mentioned, Denver and London, that'll be one of the Jets' 3 standalone games as currently scheduled. Carolina the next week at home, an actual home game. To me, I'm sorry, but that's a must-win game. Like, these are a couple gimmies on the schedule, or at least ideally would be potentially a gimme. Carolina week 7, will be one of those. To Cincinnati week 8. This is an interesting one. This will be one of the games I have circled as like one of the more interesting games because in a lot of ways the Jets are significantly better than Cincinnati at a lot of positions. Not a receiver, not a quarterback, obviously, but the Bengals defense is very, very bad until proven otherwise. The offensive line doesn't scare you at all. None of the backs. Chase Brown's a good back, but he's not like it's really Jamar and T. Higgins and and Joe Burrow, obviously. But point being, like, the Jets are really strong. They should be quite strong in the secondary. The defensive line should be quite good. The linebackers should be good. Like, this will be one of those fun matchups where if you told me the Jets got smoked, hey, Burrow and Chase might have had a great day. But also, I don't know. I kind of trust Sauce Gardner and those guys to do a decent job on the Bengals, and should be at least a fun matchup. Again, can you get to the bye at 4-4? Again, if you get to the bye at 5-3, 6-2, like, hey, go for it. And if you're 3-5, at least you keep yourself in it a bit. With there's really one game there that you look at as a gimme, a couple that you look at as pretty favorable, and depends on the situation. A couple that look quite difficult, but I don't know. 4-4 to me feels like that's where you kind of be shooting for at the bye week. Again, two of their three standalone are early in the season. No home primetime games this year for the Jets, which is a little surprising, but not too much. We kind of figured this would be a schedule, light on primetime appearances. You move along, Cleveland at home after the bye. This will be one of the first big tests for Aaron Glenn. I know that's crazy to talk about in May 14th. Jets were horrendous after the bye as a franchise for the last 15, 16 years. Even worse under Roberts. I mean, they could not come out any less ready to play post-bye week. Doesn't matter when they were semi-decent, when they were bad. Didn't matter. They just couldn't come out after a bye. This is probably the easiest game on their schedule outside of them in Carolina. And, hey, man, like, this is a do not fuck this up type of situation. I don't know. You're sitting there going 5-4, and potentially, let's just say if you play out the game we just did, and the win-loss, win-win, loss-loss, win game, Patriots on a short week up in Foxborough, Thursday Night Football, but it's not like this is insane travel, anything like that. Patriots are in a lot of similar ways in the spot similar to the Jets. You expect that game to be quite competitive. Now, to me, this is the hardest game on the schedule based on time of year and all these different things like that, quality of opponent. They'll have 10 days, and hey, maybe they're 5-5, they're 6-4, 4-6, whatever it may be. They had to Baltimore week 12, right before Thanksgiving. Again, I just think that's the hardest game on the schedule. At Baltimore, heat of a playoff race at that point. Things are starting to, materialize, and teams are kind of going all out, and they kind of know who they are at that point. So that'll be a really big test for the Jets. And hey, can you go on the road and be spunky in Baltimore? Maybe keep that one close until the end, give yourself confidence, because you then come home. You got Atlanta at home. Again, a team that a beatable team, the NFC South. Like, to me, the Jets, can they win 1 or 2 against the AFC North and 3 against the NFC South or something of that nature? That's how they probably make their, if they want to make some type of wild card push, something of that nature, that's really how you do it. But again, Atlanta at home and then Miami at home, back-to-back weeks. To me, those are like, that pack of games right there, that 5 games basically in 28 days. Cleveland at home, New England on the road, Baltimore on the road, Atlanta and Miami at home. Can you go 3-2 there? Can you win your 3 home games? Or that's a stretch where you should be able to get fat, outside of the New England game. They then go on the road to Jacksonville and New Orleans back-to-back weeks. Again, like, at a minimum, those should be splits. I'm sorry, but I know it's a rebuilding year and retooling, I guess, is if you want to call it that. But those are 2 games where New Orleans in the Dome, Jacksonville, decent weather. Later in the year, should be able to kind of at least make yourself in contention. They come home to face New England right after Christmas at home, week 17, and then they go up to Buffalo week 18. Again, 13 1:00 window games, 3 standalones, and then the Buffalo game obviously is TBD. Are the Jets competing for a playoff spot? Are they competing for the first overall pick? I have no fucking clue. But, looking at the schedule, I think it's about what you would expect. You expected Pittsburgh to probably be one of those first early games. Jets-Buffalo is obviously always a good matchup. Again, some Florida matchups early and some Florida matchups late in the year. NFC South, Baltimore, and some AFC North games kind of packed into the middle of the schedule there. Finish back-to-back divisional games. They get 2 of their 3 divisional home games, post, in December, and then, the majority of, the rest, obviously, before that. End of the day, gun to my head, May 14th at 8:45 in the, at night. I think the Jets are still a 9-8 football team that ends up being a 7 seed. The playoff drought ends. You feel good about Glenn. We'll see on Fields. I have no idea because generally Fields is pretty competent. He's at least a bridge guy. I just don't have the same doom posting like, oh my God, the schedule's so difficult. Yeah, man, the schedule is going to be difficult. Every team thinks the schedule is difficult, but guess what? The Steelers were a playoff team last year. We sure the Steelers are going to be good this year? We have no idea. The Broncos had a great year last year. Are they going to be able to repeat that? Are they going to take a step down? Carolina was bad last year. Are they going to be better this year? Worse? Who knows? Miami was a solid football team at points last year. Like the whole point being, you never really know. The Jets, I will tell you that a couple things that stand out to me that are the most important. Jets travel is awesome this year. It's the best it's been in years in terms of length of travel, different time zones, length of flights. They only have 2 short weeks. One of those short weeks is a quick ride, up to New England. And one of the other short weeks is obviously I'm going to consider coming back from London, and then they have Monday Night Football again, but it's in Miami. So it's a quicker flight home. Like, just remember where where the Jets schedule was a year ago. Every game's on prime time. Every game's on short weeks. They played like 9 games in 50 days and then, played 2 games in 30 days. It was a really weird schedule, really, horrible for the players. I think the players will be happy with the way the schedule shook out. Again, normal rest most weeks, middle of the season bye, which feels, nice, kind of around that October, November range. London's a little bit later, so you have your feet wet already, and then you get a couple of games, on the one at home, and then Cincinnati, and then the bye week before you play another home game. So all in all, like my initial thoughts on the schedule are it's kind of what I expected, in a lot of senses, and I still think that like the Jets have every opportunity to put themselves in a nice spot going into the bye where if they can hit the ground running a little bit, steal a couple of early ones where it's 50-50, 60-40, and they can get a couple things to go their way. Everyone looked at the Jets schedule last year, it was like 6-2, 7-1. I did the same thing. We all do it. I think in this case, like I don't see the Jets starting out 1-7. I don't see that at all. I actually see a team probably 4-4 at the bye, and people are excited. And hey, are we gonna what are we doing at the deadline? And the Jets are at least involved. And hey, can they make a sneaky run at ending this playoff drought? And what's Aaron Glenn going to do to kind of finish, his first year? So, those are my thoughts there. I'll be back on the feed Saturday. Appreciate you for listening, and we'll talk to you guys soon.